like the video and subscribe right now, or this will be in your room tonight. Askreddit. Reddit, I'm interested in hearing your most baddest moment. Fire away. Mine. Sitting in class, and about 10 guys/girls were trying to throw a paper in the bin from the back row. It was a long shot. During that class though I had to attend a meeting, so I got up and asked the teacher to leave class to attend that meeting. She said yes, and as I was walking out one of the guys threw the paper to get it in the bin. It missed and was instead heading straight towards my face. Out of my peripherals, I see it coming. I quickly fling out my hand, catch it, and as I walk out the door I flick it over my head and it lands in the bin. And I don't look back and walk out like nothing happened. Not me, but a friend of mine once threw a toothpick shaped like a sword across the room and it stuck itself into a slice of cake my other friend was eating. I was there, man. I was there. Do you mean a cocktail sword? Cake. About 16 years ago, I met a wonderful girl. We hit it off, and I realized that it had the potential to go somewhere. Back then she was into star signs and stuff, and the first gift I gave her was Linda Goodman's love signs with some cheesy lines and my name written on it. There was this dude with a bad rep who went to college with her and suddenly decided that he liked her too. I'm not a big guy, around 5 feet 7 inches in heels, but this guy was much bigger and heftier than me. He saw the book at her place, found out more about me, and decided to pay me a visit and have a word with me. The ridiculous part was that he came to see me at my college with a local goon in tow, but then he had not seen me before, so maybe he was playing it safe. Among other things, he told me that he liked the girl in question and asked me to make myself scarce. I'm not an aggressive chapter, more of a nerd than anything else. But that day, I asked him to duck off and told him that the only person who could stop me from seeing that girl was the girl herself. Fortunately for me, this happened in a university setting and I walked away unscathed. I dated that girl for 7 years, almost all of it long distance, got married to her, had sexy times and now have 2 beautiful little ones to show for it. 5 feet 7 inches in heels. Had me in tears, man. Congrats on the sex. Well, I don't know how badass this is, but it was definitely the most enraged I've ever been. This was a few years ago, when my son wasn't even old enough to walk yet. I had just kicked my girlfriend out of our apartment because she was cheating on me, so I had more age built up than normal. It was a nice summer night, and I had my son in his bouncy seat by a screen door that led to our balcony, which faced a somewhat busy street. He was enjoying bouncy time, and I was enjoying whatever happened to be on TV at the time. Suddenly, I heard a couple loud pops and a couple dull smash sounds. Startled, I looked towards the balcony and noticed remnants of egg running down the window, and I looked at my son, who had started to scream. He also had egg on him, since it had splattered through the screen door. Rage mode activated. I cleaned up the window, and I cleaned up my son. I put him to bed after I got him calmed down, since it was his bedtime anyway. At this point I was still fuming. I was thinking about who would do such a thing, and my only rational explanation was teenagers who were bored and feeling destructive. We had egging problems on the street in the past, but usually it was limited to cars that were parked along the street. I immediately thought, if I was still a teenager, I'd wait for the person to clean it up, and I'd be cocky enough to go back and egg them again. I grabbed an old aluminum baseball bat and sat outside my apartment building. Keep in mind that this was a pretty rough period in my life, so I probably wasn't completely sane after this happened. I found a spot between 2 cars that were parked end to end in front of the building and seat on the curb between them. 10 to 15 minutes went by and no sign of any delinquents. I was about to give up when suddenly a newer sedan comes around the corner and comes to a halt in the middle of the street, almost right in front of me. I look around the edge of parked car's bumper and see a car filled with teenagers, and one is slowly emerging from the passenger side rear window with eggs in hand. I stood up immediately with the bat and made direct eye contact with the kid. He completely froze, and all I could muster was a "you mother ducker." I started swinging at the car with a fury that I'll probably never replicate. Large dent after large dent, driver's side tail light completely destroyed, sledge hammered the driver's side mirror off. I hear teenagers screaming to "Geo Geo Geo Geo," and the driver floors it. With 4 to 5 people in the car, it wasn't moving so fast. I'm a pretty athletic guy, so I sprinted after them. In one final attempt at auto-destruction, I threw the baseball bat like a battle axe, end over end at the vehicle, straight through the rear window. Glass was everywhere. And the best part, me bat fell out of the window and off the trunk, so I was able to retrieve it. I actually kept running after them after this, but I realized, after about 100 meters, that I wouldn't be able to keep up on foot. I started walking back down the street towards my apartment building. There is an identical building next to it that shares a lot. As I walked by, I heard a slow, clapping sound. I looked up to see a single man looking down towards me. All he said was, "That was awesome." I think I might have said, "Thanks," but I really don't remember. I was so pissed that things were almost a blur at that point. I've never felt an adrenaline rush like that in my life. I have a slight one right now, just after typing that out. I normally don't get that pissed, but with the circumstances of my life, it just happened. I think the thing that really pushed me over the edge is that they hit my son, and he would have been easily viewable from the street. And we never had any egging problems after that incident. Sorry the story was so long. TLDR got egged, eggs hit son, baseball bat mashing on car, battle axe throw through car window. 30 years from now you will be telling some Haman kids to getting off your lawn with an M1. Damn, I want to grow up to be you. My dad got hit with a goose egg by some 10-year-olds. I can wait. First thing that came to my head. I was pretty young and my family were on a flotilla holiday in the Med. We moored up at this tiny village with some shower facilities and a small bar/restaurant. The showers were behind the main buildings, and in between a large Doberman was chained up. This thing looked like a typical junkyard dog with studded collar, angry eyes etc. So we quickly worked out that the chain was too short for the dog to be any harm to us, and as kids, ended up winding the poor chap up no end. We were running towards it and stopping just before the danger zone, moonwalking around the edge of the danger zone, running past etc. So eventually the inevitable happens, the chain breaks. We realize the dog has escaped the danger zone and is hurtling towards us with fury in his eyes. My co-conspirators have noticed before me and turned on their heels and made a mad dash. My brother runs across the wet stone floor of the restaurant veranda and slips on his flip-flops. Think of it like plastic garden furniture 10-pin bowling. Guests and tables and chairs and plates and drinks flying in all directions. Everyone else runs towards the sea and dives off the pontoon. I'm still standing there, thinking the end is here. I stick my hand out towards the bounding lump of muscle and hate and say stop. The Doberman stops, looks at me, slowly lessens its growling and sits down. I have never felt more badass than that moment. It must have been hammer time. Mildly badass, but I lived out lots of kids' dreams in high school. I was a pretty skinny nerdy kid even through high school. A solid 115 pounds of mildly athletic intellect. Mostly had friends in all the wrong places, read, unpopular, and usually kept mostly to myself. Enter the jock/cool kids, who usually end up getting picked on the same side for pet and considered making fun of people an amusing pastime, but not so much as to be assholes and run around doing douchey things. This lead to the greatest dodgeball showdown I have ever been in. I'm not a great thrower, but I was nigh unhittable due to my speed and size. They were used to sports and figured they had it in the bag. The pet class divided along the usual lines of mostly one side being heavily favored by the popular/athletic kids, who turned out as usual to be my side's opponent. At first, it was a slaughter. They were picking off our average and poor players like flies, but as the numbers thinned, those of us who were a bit better retaliated and whittled them down. It was an epic exchange. Brave souls on both sides perished as the battle waged on until the final showdown. Two of their best football players, including the quarterback and a popular cross-country runner, against me. I can proudly say that what followed was the most glorious sports-related moment of my life to this very day. For simplicity, I will refer to them as XC, QB, and FB. They had most of the balls on their side. I only had the one in my hand. The first throw from FB I deflected with the ball in my hand as XC took a shot at my midsection. So I spun to the side and spotted the incoming ball at my feet from QB. I stepped over it, but fumbled, and in an attempt to dodge the next throw from XC, I think I sorta fell backwards and it flew over me. Thinking I was an agile badass, I tried to do the standard ninja kickflip off your back kind of thing I had practiced in Taekwondo. It worked, and as I came up, QB threw right for what would have been my midsection, but was now where my face was located. I near bullet timed, bringing my head back down to the point I watched it fly past my nose. They stood there, stunned. They were also out of ammunition. I threw at QB's left side and he just didn't turn fast enough, and it actually bounced into FB on the way down 2 down, with 1 throw. The eye of the tiger was with me, and I just picked up another one of the balls laying around my side of the gym and just chucked at the feet of XC, and managed to bounce it off his forearm as he tried to catch it. I was a goddamn hero for that entire day. TLDR. In glorious movie fashion, one nerd has the greatest dodgeball game of his entire school's history, a tale which was told forever, all year, of my valorous battle against the popular kids. This is the kind of dodgeball scenario that kids dream about. This will go in a movie one day. I want to play you. As a former XC runner, I'm impressed you lumped us in with the popular jock types, not usually the case in my experience. I was about 20 at the time. My hair was long, wild, and relatively unkempt at the time. I was riding my bike to a friend's house about a mile down the road to play paintball. In my backpack, I had my gun, camo clothes, and a machete for clearing the woods we played in. So as I'm riding, minding my own business, some kid slightly younger drove past in a beat to shit car, yelling, "Get the duck out of the road." I responded with a hearty, "Go duck yourself." At this point, they pull over about 30 yards ahead of me. The driver steps out, with a Swiss Army knife in his hand. What was that? I'll never understand why anyone would think it's a good idea to engage a person on a bike with wild, woolly hair. Regardless, he was walking toward me, dinky knife pointed my way. It was at this point I stepped off my bike, reached into the bag, and pulled out the machete. In retrospect, this could have turned out badly. However, the other kid's eyes got significantly larger. Not a single word was exchanged. They returned to their car and continued on their way. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Crocodile Dundee. During soccer tryouts, this kid who disliked me was doing everything he could to make me look bad. He would hound me during every competitive exercise, even if it didn't accomplish anything for him or his team. We had a final scrimmage on the last day of tryouts, and he continued to harass me until about halfway through. I was sprinting towards a loose ball while he was coming at it from my right. He got to it about a second before I did and shielded the ball with his back towards me, knowing I couldn't slow down in time and he could hip check the shit out of me. Without thinking, I turned my shoulder towards him and jumped. My shoulder made contact with his back, which somehow caused my body to flip over his until I landed on my feet in front of him with the ball. I coolly passed to a teammate while everyone flipped the duck out. I tried so hard to play it cool, but it was just too much. I flipped out a little too. TLDR. Did an accidental front flip over an asshole in a soccer game and got the ball. Edit. Yes, I made the team. It's kind of hard to reject the kid with apparent ninja skills. I like how you admitted that you freaked out and didn't just say you played it cool. I don't even like soccer, but I wish that would happen to me. My first week at a new school, elementary, this kid comes up to me and starts talking crap. He started getting really combative and took a swing at me. I blocked his swing, clocked him in the jaw, softened up his ribs, and gave him one last blow to the face, knocking him down. This kid was so slow, it was like fighting a sloth or something. He didn't get back up. He didn't even get a punch in. Everyone on the playground is just looking at me with their mouths open. This kid turned out to be the school bully and had beaten every other kid in the school. I had just taken him down in 5 seconds flat without getting a scratch. Nobody, including that kid, ever messed with me again. At first I thought you were a teacher. I don't know why. I was slightly concerned about your pupil/teacher skills. It seemed like he was slow, but you had just entered beast mode, so time seemed slower. You were actually moving at bullet dodging speeds. You've been visited by cool puppers. You will be blessed with their coolness for 24 hours, but only if you comment "you're so cool, pupper." Thanks for watching. Do not forget to subscribe for more daily videos.